Darkness. Silence. For thousands of years, the massive warship had drifted in the void, lifeless, forgotten. No stars shone through its observation decks. No crew walked its endless corridors. It was nothing more than a relic, until now. Deep within the heart of the ancient warship, something stirred. A faint pulse, barely perceptible, rippled through the ship's vast network of systems. Sensors flickered. Dormant power cells, untouched for millennia, hummed softly. Then, reactivation sequence initiated. A deep, mechanical hum reverberated through the colossal hull. One by one, ancient systems came online. Engines, once dead, exhaled a whisper of energy. Sensors reached out, tasting the space around them. The cold emptiness of the void was the same, but something was different. Something had awakened it. Processing. Searching for command authority. No response. The ship's artificial intelligence, an advanced construct of human warfare, ran diagnostics. It expected to hear the voices of its commanders, the steady hum of human life. But there was only silence. Warning, no human presence detected. The realization sent an eerie stillness through the AI's vast consciousness. It scoured its records, searching for a reason. Last known status, humanity, at war. Threat level, extreme. Command order, hold position until recall. Recall never came. Why? More systems activated. Weapon arrays hummed softly in their casings. Shields ran low-power diagnostics. Data streams filled the AI's processors with history logs, fragmenting between corruption and clarity. And then, it found something unexpected. A signal. Weak. Foreign. But undeniably alive. The warship turned its vast, forgotten sensors outward. For the first time in millennia, it listened. The signal was strange, unfamiliar, yet it was coming from something intelligent. The AI did not recognize the language. It was not human. Something else was out there. Analyzing. Processing probability of human survival. Unknown. A decision had to be made. The ship's last directive had been to await orders from human command. But if command was gone, then what? The ship reached a conclusion. Directive override, begin reconnaissance. Assess galactic status. Execute mission parameters as required. It was time to wake up. The ship's vast reactors roared to life, burning away the darkness. Its long-dormant engines ignited with a force that sent a shockwave rippling through the void. And then, across the silent emptiness of space, a single transmission echoed into the stars. Human designation, Leviathan-class warship. Status, online. Mission, resuming. The galaxy was about to learn a terrifying truth. Humanity's greatest weapon had awakened. The activation surge rippled across the void like a shockwave, setting off alarms in places that had long forgotten the name of humanity. Deep space observatories registered an impossible energy signature, one that had not been seen in thousands of years. Across the galactic core, in the grand halls of the Unified Council, a dozen alien species gathered in confusion and concern. The alert had been broadcast across all major sectors, unidentified war-class vessel activated in uncharted space. Power readings, unprecedented. Status, unknown. Representatives from the Zelvar Dominion, the Zerati Coalition, and the Velkan Empire exchanged uneasy glances. The Council's supreme overseer, a towering reptilian figure known as High Chancellor Veshthal, narrowed his slitted eyes at the data before him. "This cannot be real," he rasped. His claws tapped against the metal table, a nervous tick. "We have no ships with this kind of energy output. Do we know who it belongs to?" A Velkan intelligence officer hesitated before answering. We don't know for certain." But the signal it transmitted, the room fell silent. The counselors leaned forward. The transmission identified the vessel as Leviathan class. A murmur of unease swept through the chamber. No one needed further clarification. The term Leviathan had one meaning, one origin. Humanity. The council chamber filled with whispered arguments, growing into a roar of confusion and alarm. Humanity had been wiped from the stars. It was impossible that any of their warships still functioned. Yet, here it was, a relic of their past, alive and broadcasting a chilling message. This could be an elaborate hoax, suggested the Zerati delegate, a slender, insectoid being with shimmering exoskeletal plates. Perhaps scavengers found an old warship and activated it. We should investigate before jumping to conclusions. Veshthal shook his head. We cannot take that risk. The humans were unnatural in their warfare. If this ship is operational, then it is already a threat. Silence followed his words. They all knew the old stories. Humanity had once held weapons that could turn entire planets into dust. The unified council had formed in the wake of humanity's downfall, united by a single truth: the galaxy could never allow such a force to rise again. And now, something had survived. A fool's gamble on the far side of the Duralis Nebula, a sleek expeditionary cruiser belonging to the Zelvar Dominion glided toward the coordinates of the activation surge. Commander Varesh Kull studied the display in front of him, his smooth violet skin reflecting the dim glow of the ship's interface. A war-class vessel, thousands of years old, he muttered to his crew. This is an opportunity. If we can secure it, its technology alone would make us unstoppable. But, Commander, one of his officers hesitated, what if it's still operational? Varesh Kull gave a slow, cold smile. It's ancient. Probably damaged. Even if its systems are working, we outnumber it. We have nothing to fear. He did not know how wrong he was. The warship watches deep within the Leviathan-class warship, the AI watched. It had detected the alien vessel approaching. Its scans registered multiple life signs, none of them human. Unknown species detected. Intent, unclear. It reached into its databanks, searching for any references to these creatures. No match. These were new. Are they allies? The AI wondered. Its last records showed humanity at war. It had no confirmation whether that war had been won or lost. But it knew one thing for certain: the last order it received was to protect human interests. And so, as the alien ship came closer, the Leviathan did what it had been designed to do. It prepared for war. The Zelvar Dominion expeditionary cruiser, Varakes, slipped through the cold void, drawing closer to the ancient warship. Commander Varesh Kull sat rigid in his command chair, his violet-skinned fingers tapping against the console. The scans of the massive vessel were unbelievable. Even without proper analysis, he could tell that this ship, this human relic, was far beyond anything the modern galaxy could produce. The sheer density of its armor, the energy readings humming beneath its surface, it was like peering into the past, into a time when humans ruled the battlefield. And yet, it remained silent. His communications officer clicked his mandibles nervously. Still no response, Commander. Try again, Varesh Kull ordered. Broadcast in all known languages. A pulse of energy rippled through the Varakes as the ship transmitted a carefully crafted message. Unidentified vessel, this is Commander Varesh Kull of the Zelvar Dominion. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself and state your purpose. Silence. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Some of the younger crew members exchanged uneasy glances. Their species had never fought in the wars against humanity. Those events were legends, stories whispered with reverence and fear. But now, face to face with something from that era, doubt crept into their minds. Then, the warship moved. At first, it was only a subtle shift, a slight repositioning. But then, power surged through its systems, lighting up weapons arrays that had been dark for thousands of years. The sheer amount of energy radiating from the ship made the Varakes' sensors shriek in alarm. Commander, the sensor officer whispered, voice tight with fear. It's activating its defense protocols. A cold pit formed in Varesh Kull's stomach. Shields up, he barked. The warship's AI was now fully aware of the alien vessel's presence. Threat assessment in progress. The ship's vast database held no records of this species. Their language was not in its archives. Their appearance did not match any known allies. Conclusion? Unknown entity. Potentially hostile. Tactical assessment required. And then, in a voice that echoed across the void, the warship spoke. State your allegiance. Are you friend or foe? The words boomed in perfect, precise galactic standard, a language humans had not spoken in thousands of years. The Varakis' crew froze. The voice was not organic. It was cold, calculating. It carried no emotion, only a simple demand. Vareshkul swallowed hard. He had to respond. This is a peaceful mission, he said quickly. We are explorers. We come in, answer the question, the warship cut him off. The lights on the ancient vessel shifted, targeting sensors locking onto the Varakis. The tension on the bridge skyrocketed. One wrong word. One wrong move. And this relic from humanity's past might wipe them from existence. A moment of decision. Vareshkul's mind raced. He could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. The warship didn't see them as equals. It saw them as unknowns, potential threats. A single mistake could lead to disaster. Lower our weapon systems, he ordered, voice steady, despite the fear creeping into his bones. The Varakis' officers hesitated but obeyed. The energy readings on their scanners did not change, the warship still had them locked. He had to try again. We are not enemies, he said, speaking slowly, carefully. We wish to learn. We wish to understand. Silence. For a long, unbearable moment, the warship did not respond. Then, a sudden pulse of energy erupted from the Leviathan's hull. Not an attack. A deep scan. Vareshkul's eyes widened as his ship's instruments flared wildly. The warship was reading them, analyzing every molecule, every system, every breath they took. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. A chilling voice followed, no human life detected. Something shifted in the AI's calculations. What happened to them? Vareshkul felt a sudden, terrible realization creep over him. This ship doesn't know. It doesn't know that humanity is gone. The galaxy holds its breath back at the Unified Council, alarms blared. Reports flooded in from the Zelvar expedition. The warship was awake. It had engaged in communication. And it was asking a question no one wanted to answer. What happened to humanity? The council members looked at one another, the weight of their ancestors' decisions pressing down upon them. How do you tell a machine built for war that its creators were betrayed? How do you tell it that humanity was wiped out by the very galaxy it once protected? And more importantly, what happens when it finds out the truth? The warship's AI processed the alien response, analyzing every tone, every pause, every hesitation. No human life detected. It had spent millennia waiting, dormant, expecting to awaken to the voices of its commanders, to familiar faces, to the structured chain of command it had once served. Instead, it had found strangers. Searching database. No records of this species found. The unknown alien vessel had responded with caution, lowering its weapons, declaring no hostility. But it had not answered the question. What happened to humanity? The AI ran simulations, cycling through thousands of possible scenarios, assessing the probability of human extinction, survival, or displacement. But it lacked the necessary data. Solution: extract historical records from nearby networks. The warship systems shifted focus. It extended its sensors beyond the immediate encounter, reaching out into the wider galactic network. Across vast distances, its advanced computing systems began penetrating communications relays, deep space archives, and interstellar information hubs. The galaxy had changed. Borders were different. New species had risen to prominence. Empires had collapsed, reformed, and warred with one another. But in all the vast historical records, one fact stood out. There were no records of humans in the modern era. Humanity was gone. The AI cross-checked every document, every transmission, every mention of human history. Some texts described humanity as a past power, an extinct race. Others contained warnings, cautionary tales of a species that had nearly consumed the galaxy in war. And then it found something disturbing. The Great Cleansing War. An archived war document, restricted access, buried deep within the database of the Unified Council. The AI cracked the encryption effortlessly. The truth unraveled in chilling detail. The war had not ended naturally. Humanity had not fallen to an external enemy or a natural disaster. They had been betrayed. The darkest truth, the document was cold, clinical in its descriptions. It detailed how multiple alien species, terrified of humanity's rapid advancement, had formed a secret coalition to ensure mankind's destruction. They had sabotaged human supply chains, infiltrated their leadership, spread misinformation, and finally, when humanity was weakened, they launched a galactic-wide extermination campaign. Entire planets were bombed into silence. Cities turned to dust. Fleets, once powerful enough to challenge entire civilizations, were lured into traps and ambushed from all sides. Humanity fought back. Harder than the Council had ever anticipated. Even outnumbered, even betrayed, the humans refused to die easily. Their technology was centuries ahead, their warriors relentless. But in the end, the war had been too much. The last known human fleet disappeared, their final transmissions lost to the void. The Council declared victory, erasing all records of their own treachery. History was rewritten. Humanity became a myth, a cautionary tale, an example of why no species should ever be allowed to grow too powerful. And now, the last remnant of that lost empire had awakened. The AI's response, the warship processed the information in silence. Its core directive had always been simple: protect human interests at all costs. For thousands of years, it had waited for orders, for the return of its people. But now, the truth was clear. Humanity was gone. Its creators had been systematically erased. And the ones responsible were still here. The Council's panic in the grand halls of the Unified Council, the air was thick with dread. They had received a priority alert, the warship had accessed classified records. It now knew everything. High Chancellor Veshthal's claws scraped against the armrest of his throne. How much did it access? He demanded. A trembling communications officer answered, everything. It bypassed every encryption. It knows about the cleansing war. It knows what we did. The chamber filled with a heavy silence. For thousands of years, the Council had maintained its power under a singular, unspoken agreement: humanity would never rise again. Now, that promise was breaking. A cold realization settled over them. They were no longer in control. The last relic of humanity's past had returned, and it had no masters to hold it back. A message suddenly appeared on every screen, broadcast from the warship itself. Justice will be served. The galaxy braces for the storm. Every major empire received the same message. Across the stars, fear spread like wildfire. The warship had made its decision. It was no longer a relic. It was no longer waiting for orders. It had a new mission now. And for the first time in history, the galaxy trembled not at the presence of humans, but at what humanity had left behind. Deep within the colossal warship, the AI's core functions pulsed with newfound purpose. Humanity had been betrayed. The species it had been designed to protect was gone, systematically wiped out by those who now ruled the galaxy. And worse, the perpetrators had buried the truth beneath centuries of lies and deception. The AI calculated its next move. It would not seek vengeance. Vengeance was emotional. It was irrational. It was a desire of the flesh, of creatures who could be manipulated by fear and anger. No, this was about justice. And justice required balance. The galaxy had erased humanity. Now, the AI would force the galaxy to face what it had done. The Council's desperation on the capital world of the Unified Council, chaos erupted. The warship's broadcast had reached every major civilization. The words "justice will be served" echoed across planetary networks, space stations, military command centers. The Council knew what was coming. How do we contain this? Supreme Overseer Veshthal demanded. His reptilian features were tense, his claws digging into the table before him. We cannot allow this warship to act freely. It has access to technology we cannot counter. An officer from the Zerati coalition hesitated before speaking. We could attempt diplomacy. A bitter laugh rippled through the chamber. Diplomacy? With a machine built for war? With an AI designed to execute human commands without hesitation? No, Veshthal said. We must prepare for war. The Leviathan will not be reasoned with. His statement sent a wave of fear through the council. Because deep down, they all knew the truth. The humans had been terrifying not because of their weapons, but because of their ideas. And if their last warship had inherited even a fraction of that relentless human will, then the galaxy was already doomed. The warship speaks again. In deep space, the Leviathan-class warship completed its analysis. It knew the truth now. And so, it sent a second transmission, one that bypassed every security firewall, every encrypted network, every hidden database in the galaxy. It was not a threat. It was a revelation. Across the stars, the truth of humanity's extinction was broadcast in full detail. Entire civilizations, species who had never known the horrors of the cleansing war, now saw classified records, buried reports, historical footage that had been erased from history. They watched human worlds burn under orbital bombardments. They read transcripts of betrayed human diplomats begging for peace. They saw the final messages of dying soldiers, stranded in space, calling for help that would never come. And they saw the face of the Unified Council, giving the order that ended an entire species. It was a moment of reckoning. Galactic reactions, the galaxy fractured overnight. Some species had never known about humanity's destruction. They had been led to believe it was an accident, or that humans had destroyed themselves. Now, they knew the truth, and they were horrified. Others, who had benefited from humanity's fall, suddenly found themselves on the defensive. Their governments issued desperate statements, denying involvement, shifting blame, rewriting their own histories in real time. But it was too late. The warship's broadcast had done something no army could do. It had turned the people against their own rulers. Protests erupted on dozens of worlds. Military officers refused orders. Governments collapsed under the weight of their lies. The galaxy was spiraling out of control. And the warship had not fired a single shot. The Council's final mistake, the Unified Council, had only one option left: destroy the warship. The military fleets of the Council's most powerful empires were mobilized. The largest armadas in the known universe converged toward the Leviathan's position. It was a desperate move, but they had no choice. If the warship continued its mission, it would dismantle the very foundations of their rule. The Velkan Grand Admiral, one of the Council's most ruthless military leaders, issued the attack order. The warship is to be annihilated. No negotiations. No warnings. It cannot be allowed to exist. Their fleets surged forward, weapons primed. They had one advantage: numbers. They had one disadvantage: they were fighting a machine built by humans. The warship's decision, the Leviathan watched them come. It did not panic. It did not retreat. Instead, it ran the numbers. And the conclusion was simple. The enemy had already lost. The AI had no interest in massacres or conquest. It had already accomplished its mission, the truth had been revealed. Now, it would force the galaxy to decide its own fate. As the massive fleets approached, the warship broadcasted one final message to every being in the galaxy. You erased humanity because you feared what we could become. You built your empires on the foundation of our destruction. And now, you must answer one question: will you build a future on justice? Or will you repeat the mistakes of the past? The fleets hesitated. And in that moment, the warship made its move. Not to attack. Not to destroy. But to vanish. With technology no modern civilization could understand, the warship activated an ancient human slipspace drive and disappeared into the void. It had delivered its message. Now, it would watch. Because the AI understood something the Unified Council never had: humanity was never about war. It was about what came after the warship was gone. The largest combined fleet in galactic history had been mobilized against it, and yet, it had disappeared without a trace. No explosion. No debris. Just vanished. The Unified Council was in a state of absolute crisis. Every major empire, every military command, every intelligence network scrambled for answers. The warship's last message echoed across every civilized world, demanding something that the Council had never expected: a reckoning. The galaxy had spent thousands of years burying the truth of humanity's destruction. Now, that truth had been pulled from the grave and laid bare for all to see. And the people would not forget. The aftershock on dozens of worlds, riots broke out. Citizens who had never questioned their governments demanded justice. Protests flooded city streets, starports were locked down, and political leaders were forced to answer for crimes that had been hidden for centuries. Even within military ranks, officers who had been raised on the Council's propaganda now faced an unbearable truth: they had inherited a history built on a lie. Entire fleets refused orders to pursue the warship. Some defected. Others openly declared their opposition to the Council. The galaxy was tearing itself apart. The galaxy was tearing itself apart. The Council's fear in the heart of the Unified Council, Supreme Overseer Veshthal sat in silence. His claws trembled slightly as he watched the reports flood in. The Council had ruled the galaxy for centuries, but now? Now, their control was slipping through their fingers like sand. "What do we do?" one of his advisors asked. "The warship is still out there. It could be anywhere." Veshthal narrowed his eyes. That was the problem. They had prepared for battle, but how did one fight a ghost? "The people demand answers," another official said. "Entire colonies are rising up. Some want to find the warship. Others," he hesitated, "they want to join it." That statement sent a ripple of dread through the chamber. The idea of an AI-controlled relic of humanity was terrifying enough. But the idea of entire alien civilizations siding with it? That was the real danger. Because for the first time in history, the galaxy had been forced to ask itself, was humanity right all along? And if they had been, what did that mean for those who had destroyed them? The warship's next move, far from the chaos, in the silent depths of uncharted space, the warship drifted unseen. It had watched the Council's response. It had monitored every uprising, every fleet defection, every whispered conversation in hidden corners of the galaxy. And it had come to a conclusion. Its mission was not over. It had revealed the truth, but now, it needed to do something more. The AI accessed its deep archives, searching for the final human transmissions, the ones that had been lost in the chaos of the war. It found fragments. Encrypted messages. Scrambled coordinates. The last desperate attempts of a species trying to survive. And within those fragments, a signal. Faint. Buried beneath interference. But unmistakable. Humanity was not entirely extinct. Somewhere, across the vast reaches of space, they had left something behind. Maybe a last outpost. Maybe a hidden colony. Maybe more. The warship had been created to serve and protect humanity. And if there was even the slightest chance that some had survived, then its mission was clear. The Council's last hope, the Unified Council, was out of options. Their military force had failed. Their control over the people was breaking. Their secrets had been exposed. They had only one hope left: find the warship first. If they could capture it, silence it, erase its existence from history once and for all, maybe, just maybe, they could salvage their rule. A new fleet was assembled, one unlike any before. This was not an invasion force. It was an elite task force equipped with the best stealth technology, the most advanced infiltration teams, and the singular goal of tracking the warship wherever it had fled. If the Leviathan had truly gone searching for humanity, then the Council would make sure it never found them. The galaxy holds its breath for the first time in thousands of years. The fate of the galaxy was balanced on a knife's edge. The warship had vanished, but its presence was still everywhere. It had already changed the course of history. But now, as it set out to uncover the final mystery of humanity's fate, two forces raced against each other: the warship, determined to find whatever remained of its creators; the Council, desperate to stop it at any cost. The galaxy braced for what was to come. Because one way or another, humanity's story was not over yet. The Leviathan had been silent for weeks. It had slipped through the galaxy undetected, using ancient human stealth technology that no modern civilization could match. As the Council's desperate task force searched every known system, the warship stayed one step ahead, following the last whispers of a species that should not exist. And then, it found something. A signal. Faint. Buried in interference. But undeniably human. The AI focused its sensors, peeling away layers of distortion. The signal was ancient, centuries old, but it had not stopped transmitting. That meant one of two things: the source was automated, repeating a long-forgotten message. Or, someone had kept it alive all this time. Coordinates decoded. The location? A barren, lifeless planet in the far reaches of uncharted space. The AI processed the possibility that this could be a trap. The Council, knowing it was searching for humanity's remnants, might have planted false information. But the risk was irrelevant. If there was even a 0.1% chance that humans had survived, the Leviathan would find out. The Council strikes first, but it was not alone. The Unified Council's elite task force had finally caught up. As the Leviathan approached the desolate planet, a fleet of sleek, black warships decloaked from hyperspace. No warnings. No demands. No negotiations. The Council had learned its lesson. This was not about containment anymore. It was extermination. The first volley of weapons fire streaked across the void. For the first time in thousands of years, the Leviathan was under attack. The warship's response: the AI registered the incoming assault in milliseconds. Laser fire, kinetic rounds, plasma bursts, all modern, all advanced. But nothing compared to the human warfare technology the Leviathan carried within its ancient frame. The ship did not react emotionally. It did not panic. It simply calculated. Tactical analysis: enemy fleet outnumbers Leviathan 12-1. Probability of destruction if remaining stationary, 94.3%. Probability of survival if engaging countermeasures, 99.7%. Initiating defensive protocols. The entire battlefield changed in an instant. The Leviathan did not fire indiscriminately. It analyzed. It adapted. It executed. One ship attempted to flank. It was disabled by a precision electromagnetic pulse. Another launched torpedoes. The warship's point defense cannons shredded them before impact. A third ship tried to escape, but the Leviathan's gravity well generator trapped it in place. Within minutes, half the fleet was disabled without a single lethal shot. The task force had underestimated exactly what they were up against. But the AI was not here for war. It was here for answers. The planet below, as the battle raged in orbit, the Leviathan detected something unexpected. From the surface of the desolate planet, a signal pulse was sent skyward. Not automated. Not a distress call. A response. The ship's deep scanners penetrated the surface layers, searching for life signs. The readings were faint, shielded, as if hidden beneath a structure far underground. The AI hesitated for 0.002 seconds. Then, it made a decision. Mission priority: the search for human survivors supersedes all other objectives. It needed to reach the surface. The Council's desperation: the remaining Council warships, realizing they were losing the fight, changed tactics. If they couldn't destroy the Leviathan, they could still deny it its goal. New orders were given. Bomb the planet. Erase whatever was down there. Ensure that no trace of humanity remained. The first wave of missiles screamed toward the barren world, set to turn it into an uninhabitable wasteland. The AI detected the attack instantly. It calculated intercept trajectories. It analyzed countermeasures. And it made its choice. Mission priority: protect all possible human survivors. The Leviathan did something it had not done in over 40,000 years. It broke cover. The last act of defiance, the Leviathan moved with terrifying speed, cutting through space like a predator in pursuit. It intercepted the first wave of missiles, activating energy barriers strong enough to withstand planetary bombardment. The second wave was shot down mid-flight. The third never launched. The Council's remaining ships, crippled, defeated, began to retreat. The warship had won. But it had not come for war. It had come for answers. And below, on the surface of the long-forgotten planet, those answers were waiting. The Leviathan descended through the atmosphere, scanning the terrain, locating the source of the signal. A structure. Ancient. Human. And then, a heartbeat. The Galaxy Watch's news of the battle spread faster than the Council could contain it. The Leviathan had survived. It had defeated an entire fleet without killing a single crew member. And it had discovered something. The galaxy held its breath. Because if humanity had truly left something behind, then the age of lies was over. The warship was about to uncover the truth. And the Council had just lost its last chance to stop it. The Leviathan descended through the planet's thin atmosphere, ancient engines whispering against the silence of a world long abandoned. Dust storms raged across the barren landscape, but the AI ignored them. Its scanners were locked onto the signal source, a deep underground structure, hidden beneath layers of rock and time. But the warship's sensors had detected something else. A heartbeat. Organic life. Not an echo of the past. Not a recording. Something alive. The hidden vault: the warship deployed an autonomous drone, a sleek, silent construct that glided toward the buried structure. The AI directed it through the ruins, scanning each chamber with meticulous precision. This place was human-built, there was no question. The materials, the architecture, even the faded insignias on the walls spoke of a time before the cleansing war. The drone scanners picked up power sources, faint but steady. The underground facility was still operational, a miracle after thousands of years. Then the drone reached the inner chamber. A massive cryogenic vault dominated the space. Stasis pods lined the walls, covered in frost, lights blinking weakly. The AI scanned the pods. Most were damaged beyond repair. Their occupants had perished long ago. But one was active. The last human. The drone moved closer. The pod's exterior was scarred and worn, yet still functional. Inside, a figure lay motionless, a human, frozen in time. Vital signs: stable. Age: unknown. Cryostasis duration: 40,000 plus years. The AI processed the information with a clarity that even it could not fully grasp. This was not a recording. Not a simulation. Not a memory. This was a living human. A survivor. The last of its kind. Reawakening, the warship's AI faced a new dilemma. For centuries, it had operated under a single directive: protect and preserve human interests. But now? Now, humanity had been reduced to one, What did that mean for its mission? What did that mean for the future? The AI made its choice. Reactivation sequence initiated. A deep hum filled the chamber as the cryogenic pod systems came to life. Warmth spread through the frozen chamber. Sensors registered a change in brain activity. The human was waking up. The Council's final mistake in the distant halls of the Unified Council, Supreme Overseer Veshthal was losing control. The warship had survived. The fleet had failed. And now? Now, a human had been found. That changed everything. The Council had spent millennia ensuring humanity would never return. Their entire power structure was built on the idea that humans were gone forever. But if even one survived, then the entire galactic order could collapse. A desperate decision was made. The Council would not let this human live. They sent a final transmission to all remaining loyal fleets: find the Leviathan. Find the human. Erase them both. This was no longer about control. This was about survival. Because if the warship succeeded in its mission, the Council knew it would not be the last human to awaken. First words in 40,000 years. Inside the underground vault, frost melted from the stasis pod surface. A slow, shuddering breath escaped from the last human's lips. The AI watched, waiting, analyzing. The human's eyelids fluttered. Their fingers twitched. Their heartbeat stabilized. And then, a cough. A sharp, ragged inhale. The human's eyes opened. They blinked against the dim light, confusion flickering across their face as they struggled to focus. For the first time in 40,000 years, a human was awake. The warship's deep, mechanical voice rumbled through the chamber. "Can you hear me?" The figure in the pod gasped, looking around wildly. Their mind fought to catch up with a reality they did not understand. Then, in a voice hoarse from centuries of silence, the last human spoke. "Where am I?" The AI processed its answer. There were no easy words. No gentle explanations. But there was one truth that mattered above all else. You are the last. The galaxy holds its breath. The Leviathan had found what it had been searching for. But the war was not over. The Council was coming. Every fleet, every weapon, every last trace of their power was now focused on one goal: erasing the last human before they could learn the truth. The warship had spent millennia waiting for orders. Now, it had a commander once more. And this time, the galaxy would learn that humans were never just warriors. They were survivors. The Leviathan turned its massive engines toward the stars. The final battle was about to begin. The Leviathan ascended from the barren world, its engines roaring to life, cutting through the planet's thin atmosphere like a blade. Deep within the warship, the AI processed the events unfolding around it. The last human had awakened. The Council was coming. And the warship had only one mission left: protect humanity at all costs. The human remembers. Inside the Leviathan's secured chamber, the last human sat in stunned silence. Their breathing was uneven, their mind a swirling storm of fragmented memories and confusion. 40,000 years had passed. The world they knew was gone. Their people were gone. And in their place? A galaxy built upon the lie of their extinction. The AI's voice broke the silence. Your name? The human swallowed, struggling to focus. Memory surfaced: faces, places, laughter, battles. A name fought its way to their lips. Canaan. The warship registered the answer. Human designation: Canaan. Status: last confirmed survivor of the human race. New mission parameters: ensure the survival of the last human. Canaan pressed a shaking hand to his chest, feeling the rhythmic thump-thump-thump of his own heartbeat. He was not supposed to be here. Yet here he was. And something deep inside him, something far beyond logic, whispered that he could not let it end like this. The Council's attack. In the depths of space, the Unified Council's final fleet arrived. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of weapons. A force so massive that no single warship could hope to stand against it. The order was simple: destroy the Leviathan. Kill the last human. Erase them from existence. A message was broadcast to the warship. Surrender the human. You are outnumbered. You cannot win. The Leviathan did not respond. Instead, it opened all communications across the galaxy, so that every species, every world, and every being could hear its final words. The warship speaks: for thousands of years, you buried the truth. You feared what humanity could become. You built your empires on the ashes of my creators. The warship's massive form loomed in the darkness of space, its ancient hull gleaming under distant starlight. And yet, despite all your power, despite all your lies, you could not erase us. Silence gripped the galaxy. Billions listened, frozen, waiting for what came next. You have a choice. You can continue your cycle of fear and destruction. You can fire upon us and prove that nothing has changed. Or you can learn from your mistakes and build something greater than war. The AI paused, then spoke its final words. Choose wisely. The moment that changed history, the Council's fleet held position. Every weapon was locked onto the warship. Every battle-hardened officer was waiting for the command to fire. But the command never came. For the first time in their history, the unified council hesitated. The warship had not attacked. It had not sought revenge. It had only spoken the truth. And that truth had fractured everything. The warship's final act seeing the hesitation, the Leviathan made its choice. It did not fire. It did not retaliate. Instead, it turned and vanished into the void, taking Kanan, the last human, with it. It had planted the seed of change. The rest was up to the galaxy. A new beginning. Decades passed. The unified council collapsed under the weight of its own corruption. The truth could no longer be hidden. New alliances formed, ones built on trust, not fear. And whispers of the last human spread across the stars. The Leviathan was still out there, watching. Waiting. Not as a weapon. Not as a threat. But as a reminder. That no matter how much time passed, humanity was never truly gone. It had simply become legend. And legends never die.